This is a quick tutorial about how to make a basic teapot out of clay. Alright, so what I have here is 2 pieces of soft clay that I just broke off. One of them is going to be for the main body of the teapot. Now this is my bone dry example of a teapot. So this one's already bone dry. And it's got like a lid, a handle, and a spout. So this is what I'm going to be making. And then I also have examples of little teacups, which are pretty easy to make. They're just little pinch pots with a coil attached. Those are just examples. All right, so I take this piece of clay. What you want is a size that's a little smaller than what you want the main body, the main round part of your clay pot to be, because it's going to get bigger. And then you're just going to make a pinch pot. So first you stick your thumb in there, pretty deep but not all the way through. And if you get cracking and stuff, you can always smooth it out. If it gets too dry from cracking, then just get a little water and add a little water to it so that it doesn't get too dry and start cracking all up on you. All right, so you stick your thumb in there and you're just making a pinch pot. And the only thing to keep in mind is with this pinch pot, you want the hole to stay as small as possible, but you want the sides to bow out. So you want this to get to be like a bigger ball shape, but with a small hole in the top. And the way you do that is you curve your finger or your thumb when it goes in there. So I curve my finger when it goes in there and I'm pushing out on the sides. So I'm just pushing out. So I am still doing pinching. It's still a pinch pot, but I'm pushing out on the sides while keeping this hole relatively small. Now you want to spend some time on this and really get the main body of your teapot to be about all equal in thickness on the inside there. So as I stick my finger in there and I'm feeling around, like I'm feeling this rim here, and I want to get it about the thickness of a pencil. So you could like kind of take a pencil, feel how thick that is, and then think, okay, that's how thick I want the walls of my pot to be. I want them to be that thick. That's a good thickness because that's not too thin that it's going to like break easily, but it's not so thick that it's going to break in the kiln, because if any piece of clay is too thick, then we can't really fire it, because if we fire something that's really thick clay, then it'll probably break in the kiln, because it'll have air bubbles, or it'll have a little moisture inside it because it couldn't dry all the way, and then it just breaks in the kiln, and that's just a bummer. So you want everything to be about the thickness of a pencil. So you can kind of see here, see how my finger's in there kind of pushing out. And you just want to be careful because you don't want to accidentally make a hole in it. If you do accidentally make a hole, then just grab a little extra piece of clay and make a patch. And you can just scratch to attach to patch up your hole. But ideally, we don't get any holes to begin with. So I'm just feeling all around, making sure nothing is too thick. You don't want to have like a really thick bottom and then really thin at the top. You want to have it all be about the same thickness. So just take the time to do that right, to really kind of get that right. And any like sloppiness, like, any cracks and things like that, or if the shape of it, if you want to change that up, you can always do that in the finishing portion. So when you're done here, what I have is, it still kind of looks like a ball, but now it's hollow and it's got a relatively small hole in it. And that's going to be the main body of our teapot. And after you've done that, you're going to tap the bottom of it so you have a nice flat bottom. And students, please write your name on the bottom. So you're going to put your name there. See, I'm just writing the word name. You put that on the bottom now so you don't forget. Okay, now we can add a spout, a handle, and a lid. So spout, we're going to do that first. So I'm just going to go ahead and deliberately poke a hole in there. Aha, now there's a hole. Okay, that's where the spout's going to be attached. And now I'm going to break off another piece of clay that's going to be hopefully enough for my spout. I'm going to roll it into a ball. Okay, it's getting a little cracked up, so I'm going to add a little water. And now I'm going to roll it into kind of a fat coil. So you see it's like really fat still, because I'm going to poke a hole right through there. Now I can use my finger for poking this hole, and that's what I did when I did the demo in class. But if you're having any trouble with that, I mean, you could use something else. Like, for instance, you could use a pencil and use that to poke a hole through it. But the point is you're making sure that you're clearing the way through this so that you can actually have a proper spout. And so it's got, the water's got to be able to come all the way through. And this is looking really sloppy right now, but again, you can do all your finishing at the end. Right now, you're just trying to get the basic shape of it. All right, so this is cleared through. It's starting to look like a spout. Now, at this point, you want to have it be slanted where it's going to attach. Because what you don't want is you don't want a spout that just goes out straight. Because then when you put water in it, the water is going to come out the spout before you fill it up. So you want your spout to point up a little bit so that when you put water in it, when the water goes through the spout, it's not going to come out until you lift up the teapot and pour. So make sure that spout is like pointing up. All right. So once I feel like I've gotten my spout to be about the right shape and I can kind of keep checking it, see if it fits well, then I'm going to do a little scratch to attaching. So this is where it's going to go on. And it doesn't matter that it's all cracked up because I'm going to smooth it on and then scratch to attach anyway. So now I'm scratching. Okay. And I can just dip it in the water. So now it's just wet scratched area. It's ready to go. Now I'm going to take the main body of my teapot and I'm going to scratch all around that hole. Make sure the hole stays open, right? So that the water can get through. And now I'm adding some water to that. Get it really good and wet. And now I'm taking the spout that I made and I'm attaching it on there. And this is the point where you start doing some refining, right? You can smooth it on there really nice with your fingers. And just take your time and do it nicely. So that's all finishing stuff. I'm not going to really do a lot of finishing during this tutorial. I'm just trying to show you how to make the basic shape of it, the basic parts, and then you can finish it however you want. You can like smooth it, or maybe you want one to look really rough. It's up to you. But that spout is good because water can get all the way through it, the hole goes all the way through, and the spout points up. So if I put water in this after it's fired, the water won't come out until I pour it. All right. Now we can make a handle. So break off another piece. Roll another ball. There's a lot of repeated actions here, right? So I made another ball. Now I'm going to make it another coil. And this time I want a coil that's going to be long enough to be a handle. So this is cracking a little bit, so I'm going to add a little water because it's cracking. And I'm going to roll it out on my canvas so I can get it long enough to be a handle. Okay, I think I got this long enough to be a handle now. That looks pretty good. All right. Yep, that'll work. So at this point, you're just figuring out how are you going to attach it, right? I think I'm going to attach mine like this, right? And so once you know where it's going to attach, you just put those scratch marks on there, add the water, and then press it on. So I'm going to scratch right here and right here. And add some water. And now on my big pot, I'm going to see where that's going to go. Make sure to remind myself where it's going to go. Okay. And I'm going to scratch up right here. And then down here. And add some water. Okay. So now I take my scratched up wet areas and I'm going to press this on right here. And press this on down here. And I want it to cave in, so I'm sticking my finger in there so I can really press it on and get it on there good. Okay. See, I stuck my finger in to give it a little pressure. Okay. And again, finishing and smoothing things, you can always do more of that later to make it look nice, but that's on there pretty good. If I just let that dry and treat it very carefully, because it's very fragile, until it gets fired, that handle should be pretty good. Do not pick it up by the handle until after it has been fired. Like this has not been fired, I will not pick that up by the handle because that handle will break off because it's bone dry. It must be fired before you try to pick it up by the handle because bone dry clay that hasn't been fired is super, it's in its most fragile state and it'll just break. All right, last thing is simply making the top, the little top of the clay pot. Now, the way I did this in class, I'm going to do a little different in this video. I'm going to break off a little piece to be the coil on the inside. So I broke off a little piece and I made a little coil like this, right? I'll put that aside. You'll see what I'm going to do with it in a second. And then I'm going to take the rest of it and I'm going to roll a ball, right? I'm going to press it flat. See if it fits on top. Yeah, that'll work. And then I'm gonna actually pinch to make the little handle. Now in my example, I said this during class. During my example, I made a little ball that I scratched to attach, but it actually broke off when I was moving it in a box. So I recommend actually just doing your handle this way, like just pinch it out, because then it's not going to break off like a little ball might break off. But if you want to try and do the little ball, you know, go ahead and try it. Just make sure you scratch to attach really, really well. Okay. And again, for finishing, making it look nice, you can always smooth things out later. You can sit there and take your time making it look really nice. The point is I want to have a little handle so I can lift the lid up. Now, that's going to go on there, but it might just slide right off. So that's why I made this coil. I'm going to shape it into a little circle like that. And I'm going to attach it on the bottom right there. And that's going to make it so that when I put the lid on my teapot, the lid won't slide off. So I'm scratching in a little circle. I'm scratching my coil. I'm adding water to the coil, adding water to the circle on the lid. And then I'm going to put that little coil right there. And again, you know, you just take your time neatening up all these little cracks and everything. That's just finishing. I'm just showing you how to do the basic parts and put them all together. So you make sure the lid fits on top with that coil in there. The coil should fit inside. And see, now that lid, it won't slide off because it's got something that stops it from sliding. Okay? And there we go. That's how you make a teapot. It's just a quick, easy way to make a teapot. And from here, you can sit there and you could smooth it all nicer and make it look a lot neater, whatever you want to do with it from there. Draw little designs on it. But that just gives you the basics of how to make a teapot. So good luck.